My name is Kareen. I am joining you here today from a program called RISE, which looks for exceptional 15 to 17-year-olds who are interested in helping solve any of humanity's problems through a variety of different fields. So we have a lot of artists, we have a lot of STEM winners, and it's a program, there's a RISE challenge that our youth apply to. We have Jen and Mira here today, two of our panelists who are from our inaugural winning cohort, and I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute. But if you're interested in the program, my colleague Lauren, who's in the front here, has some more information that you can come pick up at the end. But thank you for having us here today. So we're going to be speaking about arts and social impact. And I'm going to pass over to our lovely four panelists to introduce themselves now.
My name is Spencer Strebe. I'm from the Scholastics program. I am a photographer. I'm from Arlington, Virginia.
Hi, my name is Mira, pronoun she, they. I was a former U.S. Youth Poet Laureate and a Year 1 RISE winner from New York City.
Hi everyone. I'm Jen Uche. I'm also a Year 1 RISE winner. I go to Chicago, and I'm excited to be here today.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Fatima, and I was a Gold Portfolio winner this year for Scholastic, and this past year I also served as a National Student Poet, and I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area.
This was the first photo of my portfolio. It's called Before You Leave, I Love You. It's about a couple, and most of my portfolio is about queer relationships and kind of the niche relationships that can happen in those. This one depicts the guy on the right who is more out and open about his sexuality, and the guy on the left is more closed and not as open. Quite literally, the guy on the right is more naked and bare in the relationship and kind of putting himself out there more, while the guy on the left is still hiding that, and there's a lot of tension. And so in this kind of like last moment of the relationship, as kind of this desperate effort to keep the relationship going, he just says, "Before you leave, I love you."
I'm going to be sharing a poem which I had written for Scholastic 2 years ago when I was a gold medalist in poetry. It seems like a long time ago as well because I took a gap year and now I'm in college, but I really wanted to share it with you, especially considering how New York City recently was engulfed in multiple particles from Canadian wildfires. So the climate crisis is incredibly important, and through art we can create a new future and cultivate new solutions for all. This is Lineage. Lineage. There is a mother here. She has known the salt of broken oceans. Her hands have traced the sun until it became her. She learned respect from a father and his hands, how the bones of dead flowers made their garden a burial ground.
So this is actually my RISE project. So I started my RISE project as a writer. I ended it as a director. My RISE project sort of centered on youth unconfidence. So I wanted to make teens the superheroes in my fictional podcast.
I'm not one for words. I don't think I can. I'm sorry. That's okay. Just speak to the mic and speak. Just let it out. From the heart. From the heart. No. No, thank you. What? No, come on. Just say anything. We're all the same here. It's safe.
And this first poem is called Self-Portrait as Kumbakonam, and I wrote it thinking about Kumbakonam, which is where both my parents grew up. It's a village in Tamil Nadu in India where people have no last names because the village is so small. All winter I braided the village girl's hair, humming, slipping papaya and hibiscus along the pleats. I made orchards of dark silk, fruit fanned like the hymns of mothers, hot winds unfurling their voices. It was the secret of the village girls, the beautiful things we kept with us in our hair, fruit juice soaking our necks. In front of men, hijabs shrouding the gardens blooming from their scalps.
As someone who gets really interested in something and then moves on to the next thing pretty quickly, the fact that I stuck with it and have continued to stuck with it for like 4 years now has been unique to that, and has allowed me to branch off into continuing writing and continuing to learning how to draw and paint and collage and all the different niches and parts of art where it's almost harder for me to say that I'm a photographer and not an artist, because I think that, and I think a lot of us kind of feel the same way about like, just because we do one thing more than the others or have been recognized for one thing over the others, it's like I think the spirit and the idea of creating things is really what drives us. It's not, and then what we do is kind of just our vessel for that.
Through art, I found ways to express myself for myself before I learned its power to create change within my community. Because as I started writing to heal and consolidate with all of the issues that we see in the world as young people, I realized the power of lived experiences as we continue mobilizing. Art as protest has been incredibly important to me. I remember when I wrote my first spoken word poem specifically, and it was a climate poem for a competition. I went on stage, I performed, and in that moment, I didn't know anyone in the audience. And I came down and a stranger told me that she felt seen. And I think I saw a part of myself in her, because a lot of times it can be hard to see representation of yourself in your community in many spaces. And art is not only a way to fight and not only bring chairs to the table, but change what the table looks like, but also bring people with you. Because I know on stages like these, I'm not only here alone, but there are so many people, so many communities that have supported me. And I know through RISE, something that has been incredibly helpful was also bridging accessibility to the arts. Because I know that there are various communities where art is underfunded still. And by creating space for these voices to be heard, because those voices are there, they're just often erased or not given a platform. But by bridging accessibility, again, we can create more space for holistic solutions as well, and solutions that encompass a future that is equitable and just for all.
So how did I start my artistic journey? Well, I've always loved watching movies, watching TV, especially with my young siblings. We were always in front of the TV. We were always watching Powerpuff Girls or Marvel or whatever, anything that was like, oh wow, I could be a superhero too. Let me get my blanket of rat fit around myself and be incredible. So like when I started my RISE project, I knew I wanted to talk about youth on confidence. I wanted to talk about what it takes for youth to impact their community. So I started with a little survey in my school community, of course, and I asked, the main question was, do you believe you have the ability to impact? True or false? Here I was thinking, okay, a lot of people are gonna be like, yeah, for sure. I was like, yes. Shockingly, no, 80% of people said no, they didn't. And I was like, what? I was like, hold on, pause, why? So I was like, after more research, I found out that youth usually have more confidence when they're in groups, when they have communities. Artistic communities are really helpful when it comes to expression. So I found that we usually learn things by media. Our first vision, our first perspective of the world is from the books we read, from the TV we watch. So if we could get more diverse voices in that, be great. So that's why I did my RISE project about youth being change makers in their community. It was more interdisciplinary. I said before, I started as a writer, writing scripts, but I was like, you know what, this should actually be acted out. This should actually be said instead of just being in a little drive. So the majority of basically everyone in my cast, all 13 to 19-year-olds, editor, composers, and artists, all 13 to 19-year-olds. So we definitely had a big young group on our little Discord server. So it was a really fun time. I find that being an artist is very flexible, very interchangeable, and very accessible, especially because it's all online now. You can do a lot of things with that. Oh, you got one.
Okay, I think for me too, writing started with my family and with being in that community and hearing my mom tell stories to my sister and I. I would just like before going to bed, I think her presence of like comfort and joy was the way I like really learned language, and I learned that language was a comforting thing and like a joyous thing. And so as I grew up, I think I turned to writing as a place of comfort and joy too, the same way that I was taught for it to be something that was joyful and warm and happy. And then last year, I served as a National Student Poet, and starting my term there was really transformative for me, I think, because I got to meet other young people that I'm still in touch with and just feel like, oh, we can not just write poems like alone in our bedroom, but write it together and go out together and eat together and talk about poetry together and do workshops and readings. And I think it opened for me that poetry didn't just need to be like in a cloistered space in my bedroom or with my mom, but it could be opens and I could speak about it and I could hear what other people had to say. And I think that idea of poetry as like community and as like coming together and being like, oh, I want to share this with you, even though you don't know me, I want you to know this about me. And I think that opens a lot for me.